From the banks of Dewey Lake, it's the Dewey Pod Monster.
All right, welcome back. My name is John, and this is the Dewey Pod Monster Podcast. This is your weekly podcast about consumption. We are currently discussing consuming alcohol because that's one of the many things we do around here. We are proud members of the You Run Podcast Network. You can find all of our previous episodes, all of our upcoming episodes, and all of the other great shows on the You Run Podcast Network at yourunpodcast.com. With me this week is the host of the Dewey Pod Monster Podcast, and his name is Sean. I can't talk at the moment. How are you doing, Sean?
John, I didn't think God was real, but seeing you now, I do.
I don't remember that line being in the movie.
Do you know what the alternate take was?
Half the lines.
The alternate take was The alternate take was thank you, but I decided that I fucking hate you.
I think we're going to get into a lot of tanking in the second half of this episode. But before we get to that, what have you been watching this week, Sean?
Well, I had to cram a lot of stuff in, and I watched some of it today because I was like, God damn it, I don't have anything to talk about because I really haven't had a lot of time to watch anything. But I wanted to tie a bow on something. I wanted to tie a bow on Dark Side of the Ring. Season 6 just finished. Well, it didn't just finish, but it finished a couple weeks ago. I just finished the finale episode. It's becoming Muhammad Hassan. And do you know who Muhammad Hassan is, John? Is this name familiar to you?
Do not.
No. Muhammad Hassan was a wrestler in WWE. He was introduced in 2004. And his gimmick initially was like, he was an Islamic American wrestler who pointed out like the hypocrisy, the injustices, and xenophobia in the world. And this is obviously just like 2.5 years after 9/11. So
sure,
that's how his character started out. And then because it's Vince McMahon, it eventually became more and more offensive. And he eventually became like this domestic terrorist, essentially. He would have like these guys that would come out with hoods on with like ski masks, and they would like assassinate people in the ring.
Okay, you mean this as a bit, not as like an actual?
No, it was his gimmick. Yeah,
like he did. Okay.
It was his gimmick.
Well, that's good.
His real name was Mark Capani, and he's like an Italian guy from Syracuse, New York. Right. So
that sounds more accurate for Vince McMahon.
His early gimmick, he got like called up to WWE basically. And his gimmick before was he was this kind of megalomaniacal persona. He was like a, real good physique, and Mark Magnus was his persona then, or his gimmick. And he was kind of like a Rick Rude character essentially.
Okay.
So they go in, they up this character, and I think like they were doing these little vignettes to kind of introduce the character, and his manager was another like Arab American guy, and they were trying to like introduce him, and he's talking about the injustices and how Arab Americans are feeling pressure because of 9/11 and all that stuff. And like they had a thing where two other people were introducing like, oh, in a couple weeks we'll see the premiere of Muhammad Hassan, and one of the people, Ivory, who was like a diva at the time, a WWE diva, said something to the effect of like, are you flying to get to wherever the thing is? And the other guy's like, yeah. She's like, well, I wouldn't fly with that guy coming in, just like tone deaf, stupid, like just offensive WWE bullshit at the time. And they introduced him like it was a few days after the Paris stabbings. I think it was like all the when they had like the Muhammad cartoons that they published in, I forgot what the French newspaper was that they did that, but people had been stabbed.
Shows you how much garbage goes on in the world. I have no memory of that, but okay.
I can't remember.
I believe you. I don't have any memory.
Remember what the name of the newspaper was. Anyways, he kind of premiered like right after that, or he debuted right after that. And again, they just kept escalating this gimmick higher and higher to be more and more offensive, and eventually him becoming this domestic terrorist. It had gone so far that advertisers were threatening to pull ad dollars. So they basically wrote him off network TV. I think he was on SmackDown. And they wrote him off, but they had him come back for a pay-per-view. And his pay-per-view at the end, I think he wrestled Undertaker, and at the end, his like erasement, when he finally like disappeared from the show, Undertaker basically powerbombed him through the floor or something.
Right out of the WWF.
And he basically like
WWE, I guess.
Yeah. He basically had to retire. Like he couldn't do any other thing because he was so recognizable as this character And this was his dream, right? It was his dream job to be a wrestler in WWE. He had a match at WrestleMania with Hulk Hogan at some point. He wrestled with all of his heroes and all the people that he really wanted to, that like got him into the business. And it was kind of a bit of a sad downturn because he kind of was talking about how he fell into depression, and he eventually ended up, he's now like he's a school administrator. He's like a principal for some school, and he's got his life back in line, and he's like doing really well. But it was actually like a real dark side thing with a happy ending because everything got taken away from him. Because what is he going to do? Grow his hair out and come back in like a year as a different guy? Oh wait, that's that same guy, you know? So I watched that, a good series finale for Dark Side of the Ring. I watched today a movie called The Prey, and it's from 1983. Have you seen it?
Yeah, it was not good.
Yeah, it's like a Hicksploitation.
It's one of those with a lot of, if I remember right, a lot of nature clips being spliced into like not a lot of much else happening. It had a much better cover than it did the actual movie, like many movies from 1980, whatever.
Yeah, it's a big Hicksploitation movie. Basically, I think it's in California. A forest burns down. A bunch of, to use term from the movie, gypsies got burned up in this fire, and one person escapes, and he's like a killer now. And it's like, this is what I wrote: Hicksploitation snorefest that uses B-roll between every shot. Mercifully, it's only an hour and 19 minutes long, but I'd venture it's probably 60-40 movie to B-roll. It's an early role for Carl Stryken, who was in Night of the Kickfighters. He was Lurch in the Addams Family movie. And this was like a late role for Depression-era child star Jackie Coogan, who most people would probably know as Uncle Fester from the Addams Family TV show. So it was mercifully quick. It was over very quick. I did do many watch checks.
Like it was 2 hours and felt like it was 2 hours and 18 minutes long from what I remember.
Watch check the movie part 2. And then last thing I'll talk about is, someone clued me into this. You might know him. The Mortician. It's an HBO docuseries, a 3-part docuseries on HBO following.
Technically, I didn't clue you in.
Oh, I didn't say you did.
Better half did.
Yeah, someone that you know.
Okay, good.
Intimately.
You said
clued
him.
me in. No, I didn't. They.
You said him.
No, I didn't.
You did.
I didn't say him.
Well, now you're saying they. Anyway.
Anyways, it follows this guy, Sconce. This is David Sconce. He basically ran a crematorium, and the show goes into how in 1982, when he took over the cremation business of his family's funeral home, they did 165 cremations. And the first year that he was in charge, they did, I believe it was something to the effect of like 1,600. And then the next year it was like 3,400. And then the year after that, it was over 4,000. Yeah. So you can imagine how
business is booming.
Yeah. Booming. Business is booming. You can imagine how they got all those cremations done so much more quickly and efficiently. But maybe I'll have more to talk about next week with that. But that's really interesting. I'm looking forward to finishing that out before the next time we talk. But those are the 3 things that I was able to cram in, other than maybe if you talk about Slugs, I could chime in on that. I don't know how much we'll talk about that, though.
I wasn't planning on talking about that.
Never mind.
I still need to start The Mortician. But so what did I watch? If you would like to know, I watched some crap.
Why don't you just tell me the movie you want to see?
So I'll start with, I decided to finish up the Re-Animator series and watch Beyond Re-Animator, and it's funny. It's like more of the same, except they start him in prison for some reason. Like apparently he finally got arrested for all these bodies that he's reanimating, which I'm not sure that's a crime, but it is in this movie. And I mean, it's kind of funny. I said this after watching Bride of Re-Animator. It's like, oh, this is basically just more of the same, except now he's made someone who made something. It looks like a little like self-contained like vial of electricity that he uses to inject in stuff, and it makes him not pissed off for like a period of time, but eventually, doesn't go well. But it's fine. It's of the 3, and I think there might be a 4th one too, but of the 3 that I've watched now, so being the original, Bride, and Beyond Re-Animator, it's definitely a sliding scale. Like, these are deteriorating as they go along. I still find the character of Herbert West to be interesting because he is so batshit nuts and so dedicated to his craft. So he's got that going for him. This one is available for free if you want to watch it, but I don't know that it would be the first thing I would go to. Pivoting like 360 from that, I watched Shaq's Power Moves, which is basically about Shaquille O'Neal trying to revitalize the brand Reebok with Allen Iverson's in it a little bit and a bunch of slapdick Reebok employees. They're basically trying to, well, they're trying to do just that. They're trying to make Reebok a like brand that's on par with the Nikes and Adidas's of the world, and kind of getting shot down a lot in every way. They keep talking like they're basically trying to like, they make it seem like they're pivoting their entire company on like the success of this one shoe launch, which really isn't accurate because Reebok is actually kind of getting popular again right now, but it's not because of these shits that I've seen in this TV show. It's like a lot of their vintage looking throwback models, a lot of the stuff kind of like what New Balance does, but like, you know, Reebok. And they basically go through this, I think it's like 8 episodes. They're all short. They're like a half hour long. It's a pretty quick watch, and it's just following Shaq around. And I do find Shaq to be pretty funny, so that's worth watching because he'll go to some like late high school, early college age kid who he's trying to recruit to get on Reebok, and they'll be sitting there playing basketball, and here comes like this gigantic human Shaquille O'Neal, like, there's a Reebok, you know, or so what. So that's entertaining enough, but as a whole, like, they show them launch the shoe that they're trying to pitch to everyone and their mother for the first 7 episodes. They never really tell you if, like, from a sales perspective, it takes off. I can tell you I've not seen these anywhere as an avid shoe whore of the show, or at least one of the avid shoe whores of the show. I haven't seen these things pop up anywhere, and they look kind of stupid and fake and rubbery to me, but whatever. I hope they do another season just because I will watch Shaq walk around and do most things.
Is it like a recent show?
Yeah, it's on Netflix. It's one of their miniseries. It came out within the last month. I don't know exactly.
Oh, okay.
When
So it's
out.
not. So the shoe would have been, the release of the shoe would have been within the last 6 to 8 months, probably.
Yeah, I think they talk about, because they're talking about stuff that happened earlier this year, like February-ish, I want to say. And it came out, they talk about the NBA All-Star Game, which I believe is in February. And they talk about whenever Caitlin Clark and what's her name?
Angel Reese.
Not Asia. Yeah, her Angel Reese, because she's on Reebok apparently. Whenever they played, like the only time they played this year is like the culmination of when they launched the shoe because, you know, rivalry and all that type of shit. I mean, it's not the worst like reality show when it comes to following someone around and listen to their day-to-day bullshit and whatnot. Like it's a lot of that, but the characters, the people that they have in it, like I said, Shaq is interesting enough that I'm like, all right, I can watch this. It's kind of mindlessly entertaining and whatnot. The other thing I was going to bring up that I thought was worth mentioning, and I know I mentioned this to you because this features friend of the show, 42nd Street Pete, and I was just watching some silly little video that's a little documentary about, like, you know, VHS and collecting VHS and buying VHS and shitting all over every other format because it's not VHS. And who pops up? A much younger, more hairy, more beaten and looking 42nd Street Pete. He's like, I was on 42nd Street selling porn and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And again, it's on Tubi for free, so it's an easy watch. It's, if you like watching it's called Adjust Your Tracking. Adjust Your Tracking, the untold story of the VHS collector. Which I think if you've ever met a VHS collector, you've had this story told to you several times. But it's entertaining, and you get to watch your fellow nerds go out and be nerds and talk about it on camera for a while. So it's relatable in that sense. There's some of them that you see, and they're like, I have 6,000, videotapes in my basement. They're like, do you have a family? No. But I have a video store in my basement.
I don't need a family. I have VHS.
It's a little bit of that, but not necessarily bad. It's worth checking out. And yeah, we watched Slugs because we went to the bar and came back and watched Slugs. And
yes, you do.
I don't really have a lot to say to it other than there's Slugs. We want more Slug movies. This had Slugs.
I prefer The Nest over Slugs.
I prefer The Hidden over Slugs.
Yeah. I mean, that's low-hanging fruit. The Hidden is much better than Slugs. But I think The Nest is marginally better than Slugs, but also a lot better at the same time. I know that's a bit of a oxymoron, but
conundrum.
Yeah.
It's all right. So that's all I got for this week until, unless we want to dabble on other shit. There's other stuff we could talk about, but I think it's time to take a break. We're going to do that. We're going to come back and we are going to talk about a movie that I have cursed us with for the week. It's called Instant Death, and hopefully we survive talking through it because it's so great. Yeah.
Let's just say I wish I would have had instant death.
So does everyone else in the movie. So we'll be right back, and we will be talking about Instant Death.
Instant death. Hey folks, Sean here. Are you a horror fan? Get your fix with the LK the Horror Nerd podcast. Step into the world of spine-tingling thrills, chilling tales, and deep dives into everything horror with the LK the Horror Nerd podcast. Hosted by the incredible Lorelei Kerouac, this show offers a fresh, inclusive perspective on the genre we all know and love. Each episode is a unique mix of movie reviews, TV show breakdowns, book recommendations, video game critiques, and more. With insightful discussions, expert interviews, and a passionate take on horror news, LK the Horror Nerd brings the spooky straight to your ears. Whether you're into blood-curdling scares or thoughtful genre analysis, LK the Horror Nerd has something for you. You can check out LK and the other fine podcasts at yourunpodcast.com.
All right, Steven Tyler and I are back, and like mentioned, we are going to talk about the movie Instant Death. This movie is a movie. And we get a third-party review this week from Letterboxd, and it comes from Chuck. And Chuck says, Lou Ferrigno goes to visit his family in England, immediately runs afoul of a local drug lord, and luckily, it turns out he's an ex-Special Forces killing machine. So this movie is very cheap, which hurts it tremendously, and it's got some lengthy rape scene and torture scene in it, which is wholly unnecessary. It's kind of hard to keep watching after that, despite knowing that the bad guys are going to get dead, but they get wrecked for it eventually. 1.5 out of 5 stars. Thank you, Chuck. Sean, what is Instant Death all about? Is it about instant death?
His name is Chuck, and he likes to fuck.
Very likely.
All right, so for that, we go over to IMDb, and we look up the words instant death, and we pull up a movie from 2017. That's like, we're getting kind of close to today. That's probably one of the closer ones.
Dangerously close.
Yes, almost today.
Oddly, this movie is not on the popularity scale.
I know, it's crazy. This is not rated. It's an hour and 24 minutes, again, mercifully. It is a 4.2 out of 10 with 745 ratings. And we're going to read the storyline of the plot. Never know which one's which, but we're going to read the one on top because I wouldn't put it on top if they didn't want it read first. It says, when the violence of a drug war becomes all too personal, a troubled Special Forces veteran seeks bloody revenge against criminals. And then if we scroll on down to the storyline, that must make the other one the plot. This one comes care of Anonymous. It says, a vicious gang war for drug dominance draws in a disturbed Special Forces veteran, John Bradley. Trying to adjust to normal life and haunted by inner demons of a violent past, the underworld's retribution on his last connection to humanity, a daughter and grandchild, leads to a descent of fury and violence that not even the brutality of gangland is prepared for. Those just sounded like a bunch of words that they threw together, and they kind of made sense because they didn't make sense reading them.
They also, I'm not 100% sure they actually apply to this movie, but we'll get into that. Before we do, we already mentioned who's the star of this movie, but Sean, who's in this movie?
Lou Ferrigno's in this movie.
Yeah, that's pretty much all that matters. So
yeah, there's a bunch of people. It's one of those movies where when you look at the actors in the movie, like on IMDb, there's a picture of them, and 90% of the people do not have pictures, and the ones that do have a picture have like maybe 5 other credits.
With all due respect to the people in this movie, and I might be including Lou Ferrigno in this, the majority of this movie you watch, you're like, are we sure these are actors? Because I'm not. So I'm gonna let you open the floodgates here, Sean. Was there anything that you liked in this movie? Or actually, because I can tell you, I know that we just found this movie within the last 6 months because I've been kind of chomping at the bit for us to watch this piece of shit. And I want to say, before we get into this too much, I appreciate that we can find a movie that we both know is a piece of shit before we even put it on. And somehow that's not a deterrent to watch it for this stupid show. So I appreciate that.
No, I think that we both knew it was a piece of shit, and we were both kind of looking forward to watching it because that's the kind of guys we are.
For sure.
That
I
should
mean, we
tell you
didn't
a lot.
expect an Oscar. That in mind, was there anything you liked in this piece of shit?
Well, I just wanted to say, like, I've brought several years of Crummy Movie March now to you. We've done movies like Playing with Fire, Shogun Assassin. There have been a few other like gems.
Shogun Assassin is not a piece of shit.
No. I'm just saying, like, this is what we've done. You know, this is our book of work, right? If you're going to open a book of our work, you're going to find stuff like on one page, you might find Playing with Fire. You might find Shogun Assassin. You might find
Who Tortured Who?
You might find Nostril Picker. You might, there's several movies that we could do. Black Devil Doll from Hell. There are several that we could find and say, oh, you could find Point Break in there too. I never brought us instant death. John brought instant death to us. Okay. So I just wanted to say that. And the other thing is that this movie's not rated.
It's fair.
It's not rated. So you know that means it has to be good. So I just wanted to, off the bat, I appreciated that this is 1997. I'm sorry, 1997. This is I felt like 1997. This is 2017. The way that this is filmed is like 2017's version of Shot on Shittio. It is Handycam or phone, or it's got some real over sharpened digital quality to it, which is just like, it really puts you in that time and place. You know, you can watch this and you're like, yeah, this is definitely a time. I love, it's not so much a movie, a plot point, but I love that Lou Ferrigno, who I think at this point, like now, present day, is like 71 years old. In this movie, which would have been about 8 years ago, if my math is correct, he would have been like in his mid 60s. I love that he has jet black hair, and you can see, because this is HD, you can see all the white roots on every one of his hairs. His beard's got a little bit of salt and pepper, but I just love when you can see someone who is dyeing their hair, and they've, like a Bill Belichick, or like somebody is dyeing their hair, and you can just see that like white halo. Brian Dable from the Giants coach. Like
Giants?
You can see his beard, that it's like you can see the white underneath it, like just on the fringes. I love that. Being an old guy myself, I can totally appreciate that you're trying to, give the vision or whatever that you're like holding on to this youngness. But there are a few things in this movie, I noticed every nameplate, be it person, be it place, like, oh, you're going to the school, you're going to the airport, you're going to the gas station, this is Colonel Butthole or whatever his name is. Every nameplate in this movie is a white placard or a piece of paper with like bold black lettering, everything, toilet, apartment building, like everything is just clearly, they just stuck it up 5 minutes before they filmed so they could instantly take it down.
Murder blood.
Yes. I love that. I love there's a scene where Lou Ferrigno, so kind of the Cliff Notes version of this movie is that Lou Ferrigno is some kind of special forces. They don't really ever get into like what he's affiliated with, but he starts to feel, he's like talking with a counselor or his psychiatrist or something. And maybe it's like a government's, issued psychiatrist kind of guy. And he decides he's going to go see his daughter who lives in England, because he never really spent much time with her, and he felt like he should go see her. And he goes over there. He has a SAS buddy or something, and he gets there. And when he gets to the place, he starts hearing people screaming or something. There's like this. They live in basically the English version. I don't know what you'd call it, but it's like the projects essentially. And he hears some screaming and some gunshots or something, and some drug guy is getting maimed or something from Razor, the other bad drug guy. And he sticks his nose in where it doesn't.
Fattest guy to be named Razor ever.
He has a scar next to his eye. He gets involved, and
probably not from a razor, but
well, maybe. And he gets involved, and that ends up bad for his family.
Pork bone. Yeah.
A broken piece of a chicken bone.
Yeah. So
that really just sets it all off, and he ends up staying the night. There's the scene that I'm getting to in that long-winded way of telling you. There is a scene where I'm setting the scene. He's laying on the couch. He's staying at his daughter's place. And he's got like one scene he's fully clothed, and the next scene is supposed to be the morning. And you don't see that he's wearing any clothes. He's just under a blanket. And I just like to imagine that he goes to see his daughter that he hasn't seen in years. And he just lays on her couch nude. Like just skid marks and all that stuff. And there's One last thing that I will bring up, and I'll let you tell us your loves or your likes about this movie. As the guest reviewer mentioned, there is a scene, a very prolonged and very like unnecessary rape scene that happens in this movie. And his daughter gets, spoiler, this is on Tubi if you'd like to watch it. His daughter gets like, she gets raped and she gets her eyes like stabbed out by a razor with like the kind of razor that
straight razor.
Yeah, straight razor. Like, I don't know how that works because I didn't think it had a sharp point. I thought it, whatever. But so she's in the hospital. She's got like the gauze goggles on. And this is in England. So he goes in and she's like bearing her soul. She's like bawling what eyes she has left out. And she's crying about her daughter that got suffocated, like murdered. And it's a shared hotel. It's a shared hospital room. So there's just a family in the background. They're eating like tea and crumpets or some shit in the background and they're as if nothing's going on. And this woman's just like, bearing her soul about all these things and telling her dad to go kill these guys. And I was just like, yeah, that's probably normal. It's when you go to the hospital, you're in the waiting room and somebody has some really bad news and you're just trying to pretend like you're not there. I didn't hear any of that. I'm going to go back to watching The Simpsons.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is more of an American thing, but I feel like the rape victim who has her eyes gouged out and is obviously quite hysterical probably wouldn't just be in the general ER. They might maybe give her a private room in like a trauma center. Maybe.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, she's in the same room later on like a folding chair, So for me, one of the things it's interesting because this is one of those movies where the things I like about this movie are inherently bad, but they're kind of bad to the point where this is how I'm going to get like the guest reviewer is kind of right. Like this movie, well, we're going to get to negatives, but I'm going to say this leading up to it. The movie takes too fucking long to get to the part of the instant death part of the movie.
Oh my God.
It takes a really long time of building up. And yes, the rape scene is way fucking drawn out. And I don't know about you. I would have been fine if it was all like a 2-second off camera, like it's all just implied and you just kind of know what happens without having to watch it all.
Yeah.
Would have been fine with that.
Like a rip of fabric or something and it fades to black and screaming or something would have been perfectly fine.
Yeah, we already know he's a bad guy. We don't need to, but whatever. What I like is, I like that Lou Ferrigno, so you said he was what, 64-ish at the time when this came out?
Roughly.
Around there?
Yeah.
So I like that the way he moves in this movie is very much so like a senior citizen. And all credit to Lou Ferrigno. Like, he looks amazing I don't care what his age is. Like, he looks great in this movie. Like, salt and pepper hair, bad dye job, all that. Like, he still looks like Lou Ferrigno.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and he looks fine doing it. But when you see him walking, you can tell, like, this guy's not moving that quick. Like, this guy might have been around for 6 or 7 generations to, get to this point. And it's even more apparent when they get to the point where he does hand-to-hand combat and like fighting scenes, because they try to do something with like bullet time. Kind of like it's like they saw The Matrix and they're like, oh, it looks cool. We can make something that moves fast and slow the shot down and like, special effects the shit out of it and make it look cool. The problem in this movie is they slow it down, and it looks like they had to slow it down for Lou Ferrigno to be able to keep up and actually do the moves that he's trying to do on these guys that he's kicking the shit out of. So when it's moving at like quarter speed, I feel like that's kind of like the way he's moving. So
I noticed, it's part of my negatives, but I did want to chime in. I noticed that every time, especially in the early parts of this movie, every time Razor is on screen, they do that thing where, like, when you normally edit video, you can slow down, you say you want it 50% speed or whatever. The way to compensate that to make it look like it's slow motion is that you film at a higher frame rate. If you film at a regular, like 25, 24, whatever, 30 frames a second in England, when you film like that and you slow time down, it looks choppy like that. So it's like the director or the cinematographer, whoever, didn't take into account that he would want these scenes slow unless it was a stylistic choice, which, it was just like, it looked cheap. Like, again, it looks like shot on Shidio, and then it made it look even cheaper. And those fight scenes, I noticed they almost exclusively show Lou Ferrigno from the waist up. He looks like a bodybuilder who has been powerlifting and using his knees to lift massive multi-ton like barbells and shit. I know that's an exaggeration, but with Lou Ferrigno, I wouldn't be surprised. He looks like a dude that's been doing that his whole life and didn't have like all the knee braces and shit that people use now. So I do have to give him credit. He moves around fairly well for a guy that probably should have 2 new knees if he doesn't already.
Oh yeah, for sure. And again, I'm not shitting on Lou for this. I'm saying it's a weird, whether it's a weird choice or a weird mistake or maybe both. It's very, very noticeable, especially the more the movie goes on, because he basically turns into the Terminator at some point in this movie. He's a one-man killing machine, and that's it. And that's what you go into this movie like kind of hoping for, because it's called instant death. Like you're not going into this hoping that he goes down and sits down at a table and does like court negotiations. Like that'd
he's
be
balancing his
weird.
books.
Yeah. I also like that Lou Ferrigno has a speech impediment. That's a very known thing, and I'm not going to talk shit about that, but I like when they start letting him riff on one-liners, and they're all super short and super cheesy. Like, there's a point where he blows this, like, drug dealer away at, like, point-blank range with a shotgun, and the guy's trying to, like, bargain with him. He's like, oh, you go take care of Razor for... He probably doesn't say this exactly, but he's essentially saying, like, go kill Razor for me, and I'll make sure you're taken care of, or whatever. He knows that Lou Ferrigno is going to fuck up Razor. He's like Razor's boss, I guess. And Lou's just like instant death and like explodes this guy with a shotgun. I thought that was pretty funny. So once the movie actually gets past the first like 40 minutes or so and gets to the point of being like what you would expect, which is just Lou Ferrigno kicking the shit out of everything that moves, you can kind of take some like fun out of that side with it. The problem is you have to go through this big like slog to get there.
Yeah, I don't even have a problem with the beginning of the movie. Maybe the first 20 minutes or so are fine. Like, I understand you have to establish a thing. There is some action that happens in the beginning. It's not necessarily Lou Ferrigno, but it happens. Then we have the daughter part. Again, still fine. Up until, like the guest reviewer said, he hit it nail on the head. Once that rape scene happens, then there is so much of them, like side characters discussing things, other people discussing things, somebody saying something to Lou. There's like a scene where he calls that SAS like colonel that he knows, and he's just sitting in a back room on a stack of boxes, like waiting for the guy to call him back because he's supposed to be like triangulating signals or something to tell him where the guy is. And it's just him sitting there, and he's not even involved in the movie at that point. And that's like, this movie is only an hour and what do we say, like 27 minutes long or something like that.
Yeah.
And there's that whole part in the middle. It's probably a good 40 minutes where he's not like doing anything. And it's just all these people you don't give a fuck about that you want to see get blown away. And it falls into, we've seen this so much. I think we could probably like go to college and get doctorates in film study about shitty movies, because it's this common thing that they do in movies like this, where like the director thought, or they heard that you have to make your movie a minimum an hour and 20 minutes or whatever, an hour and 15 minutes, something, to make it justifiably a movie. So they just pad out everything else to make it that length. And that's what this movie does. It like to the max. Again, there's probably a good,
if they had just
50 minutes.
seen Black Devil Doll, if they had just seen Black Devil Doll from Hell, they would know that's not necessary.
That's right. You could have a great movie. You could have a masterpiece, and it only has to be like 57 minutes long or something like that. But there's like, seriously, there's about maybe 50 minutes of this movie that's just set up with the story. The last 30 minutes is a lot of Lou kind of getting into his business, but still not really. I don't think the body count's really all that high, all things considered. And then, then there's the other 40 minutes where you're just like, oh, please, what are we doing? Why are we doing this?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't count on the body count. It's probably like, for this kind of movie, he probably kills like 20-ish people or something like that. I feel like this movie kind of took like the attitude of Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrel and tried to retrofit it with like Death Wish and Arnold Schwarzenegger and like put them all in this mixing pot together. And this is kind of what they came out with. And I think a lot of it falls short on all three of those fronts, because Lou is like Arnold in the sense that he's big and he's, well, with all due respect, not the best at carrying a long line of dialogue. And Arnold isn't either, for different reasons. But he's good at, like, he looks good on a camera. He can carry a huge gun around and he can, make it look like he's doing those types of things without too much of an issue. Like, I don't have any problem with that. The Death Wish thing, like, I guess you would have to call this like a revenge story. I don't know how else you would really paint it. It's like, because it's the typical, like, ex special forces murder machine gets double crossed by bad guys, kills bad guys. That's all it really
family
is.
gets hurt.
It's nothing.
Go kill people. Yeah.
Pretty much. And I'm not complaining about that, but Death Wish just does it so much better. Like, as far as the whole revenge against everyone type story, or like that kind of I'm sure we could probably think of like 50 examples of movies that do the whole one-man army revenge thing better.
Every movie I've ever seen, pretty much. Every revenge movie I've ever seen. This is like the thing, if we're going to, you pulled up Death Wish, I didn't say it, but that movie is so much fun. It is funny. It's like ironically and unironically very funny. And this just, there's no fun in it.
It's not.
Yeah. And the director of this movie, I think his name is Ara Paiaya. And if you look at his like IMDB profile, it's like he stars in almost every movie he directs, except for this one. And maybe there's one after it, but this actually, there's a 6.7 rated movie on his list, but like, they're all the same. He stars in it. It's the same cover as what looks like this, as Instant Death looks like. Just different names, something about death, something about, dubbed in whatever, the suppressor, just like all these
slow death.
Yeah, all these
moderately fast death.
Almost quick death. Almost instant.
Hospital death.
There's just convalescent death. There's just all these hospice.
Natural causes death.
Hospice care. There's just all these movies on here. They just look exactly the same. So I could see this just being, we're going to put Lou Ferrigno in this because he said he would do it for 50 grand or whatever. I mean, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter how much it costs to do. It's competently made, at least like technically, other than it looks like shot on Shitio, but the effects look fine. It looks
That's
serviceable.
not always a negative for us.
Yeah, it looks serviceable. It's just that the story is just so... It needs to be like way more concise for me.
It definitely needs an editor. It needs someone to either rein it in or get rid of the shit that we don't need, or at least cut the shit down to where it should be. I wouldn't have minded another like 10 minutes of Lou Ferrigno kicking the shit out of stuff. Yeah. Even if we just had like I almost said 5 minutes, but I feel like that would be way too long. A montage of him like getting into murder mode where he's, lifting some weights and like throwing knives around or whatever,
loading all the
typical
guns,
action movie shit.
Cocking them.
Yeah, all
in
that
his belt.
Shit. Yeah, sure. Whatever he wants to do. It's definitely lacking. And the things that it does do that are rewarding, it's, again, you have to go through so much like unentertaining shit to get to what should be entertaining, that it just like sucks all the life out of the movie once it starts doing what it's supposed to.
Yeah, it lets all that air out of the balloon, that the first like little bit, the anticipation. Yeah. The anticipation of Lou Ferrigno being this badass, and then the 40 minutes or whatever, 30 minutes of just him sitting on a stack of cardboard boxes waiting for somebody to call him back.
It's amazing that he was able to be supported by cardboard boxes. You wonder what's in them.
They may have been steel girders or something, but it was something like pallets or something.
I would have liked a scene where he's sitting on the cardboard boxes. He hangs up the phone. It stays on him for like 10 seconds, and he just squishes through them. So,
womp womp.
Lou fall. Yeah, I mean, so we've kind of talked about bad negatives on this. Do you have any other negatives that you really want to point out on this one?
I feel
like this is going to be a shorter episode. Like, it's kind of hard to go too far. It's not like this goes in depth to begin with.
True, but this there's one thing I wanted to point out. Well, not one thing, but it's a group of things and then one specific example. But like this is like a green screen extravaganza. I was trying to make like some long word out of that, but there is a scene in particular. So he goes to England and his wife is buried there. And there is this whole scene where he is supposed to be at a grave site. And like I said, all the locations, all the placards for things like names are like
look very green.
It's all white, like a white triangle, or I'm sorry, white triangle, a white rectangle with black lettering, black block lettering. And when he goes to the grave, like to the cemetery, and he sees the grave, it's like generic picture of a headstone with photoshopped words on it. And then there's this several scenes of him with his profile, like a 3/4 like look at his head. staring at this tombstone, and you can actually see the edge of the, not green screen, but where they masked him out of the shot, or they masked the tombstone in, and they keep going back to it over and over again. And he's like doing some voiceover telling his wife he's sorry that he didn't visit her earlier or whatever. I just thought that was great. That was hilarious because you can just look at it. You can see that's not an actual headstone. There's no like dimension to it. It's not actually carved. It's just like a flat graphic. And that just to me summed up everything in this movie. Like you tried. I mean, we can't say you didn't try. Not Lou either.
Actually, I think Lou's fine in this movie.
I think he does. It's kind of like WrestleMania where he shows up, he does exactly what he is asked to do, and they use him. Yeah. They use him really well in the movie. It's just that everything supporting him in this movie is just held up by like duct tape and bubble gum and toothpicks and shit. It's just there's not enough structure around him.
So speaking of duct tape, bubble gum, and toothpicks, so I got to ask, and this is going to be the spoiler part. How do you feel about the end of this movie? Because the end is very bizarre in how they wrap this up, because it's not quite a still frame, but this might be dumber than a still frame.
You know, as we're talking about this, I watched the end and I didn't take a note, so it must not have been a freeze frame, but I felt like it was something. She just like goes back to work or something, doesn't she? His daughter or something?
Okay. Again, spoilers. If you want to watch Instant Death, it will be linked in the show notes.
Fast forward
we'll get
like
to whether or not we
2 or 3
recommend
minutes.
that. Yeah. So he goes on his killing spree. He kicks the shit out of all the bad guys on the boat. He's taken off the boat in handcuffs. He's got like 4 handcuffs on to whatever by the London police or English, whatever they are, the police. And then it cuts to him. I think he's back in the cemetery. He calls his daughter. She like fumbles the phone like 12 times because she doesn't have eyes in case we forgot. So she fiddles with it, picks it up. And he basically says, "I'm going back to America. I love you. Bye." And then it goes to credits and that's it. So it's not quite a freeze frame.
Okay.
But there's no explanation as to how long it is between did he just go to the station and they said, "Well, you killed all the bad guys, so I guess we'll let you
so
go."
I guess
did
thanks?
he get some kind of government clearance to let him off the hook? Or did he just kill all the cops and like break out of there? We don't know, but he's arrested and then free to go. And I don't understand what the fuck that's about. I mean, I guess it leaves the door open for instant death or instant death harder or something like that.
Die harder.
But yeah, obviously this financially didn't make enough money to justify a sequel for some reason. I mean, it probably only had to make like $15 to double its budget. But yeah, how do you feel about how this wrapped up in bizarre?
Yeah, now that you kind of relay it back to me, it was super bizarro because we didn't even mention there's this whole, so the SAS colonel guy is helping him, but then at some point the police come to him and they're like, "Hey, you got to stop this fucking guy. We don't know who he is. Do you know who he is?" "Yeah, I kind of know him." "Well, you can't stop him. You can't do that. You know, you're going to don't get in the middle of it." And they just kind of like, they're following him. They're following his trail of bodies. And then they get to him. There's this whole showdown, like you said, on this boat, which weird. But yeah, it's just kind of like, it was so.
Sure.
I guess it makes as much sense as anything else in this movie. There's just so much shit that goes on that, again, it felt like the director said, "Yeah, we're at the time limit. Let's just end this." Whereas you could have cut all that other shit and given us some kind of like explanation as to what happens here. You just kind of, I'm going home. All right. See you, Dad. Bye.
I mean, even if there was like a 2-second, like, "We checked your government clearance, you're free to go," a throwaway line like that or something. But no, the fact that they literally show him being arrested and then aside from blinking to watch his blind daughter try to find the phone, just him walking free like nothing happened. It's weird. So
yeah, it's
weird, man.
Yeah, it's a very odd finish. I mean, I think freeze frame may have actually been more. It would have made more sense at the very end. They just walk him off freeze frame or fade to black or something.
Yeah, or skip him being arrested altogether and then have him walking away in the cemetery. Like if they had done that, like I might have been like, it's weird that the cops were, I don't know how he got off the boat, but okay,
swim,
whatever. Sure. I would like to see Lou Ferrigno all bloodied up, like doing a perfect swan dive off the boat.
Yeah, and then he's doing a
freedom.
freestyle back to shore.
So,
back to US. The US. He comes up on the shore of New York with his bag and his leather jacket. It's a weird leather jacket with like all
got a shark in a headlock or something.
And a zombie sticking out of it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, why not? You ready for hot dogs?
Then you're in for a big treat, bro. Because it's hot dog time.
So I'll lead us off here because this is my fault. This is what happens when John finds a movie that he's like, oh, it's got Lou Ferrigno. It's got to be a movie.
It's called Instant Death.
This movie is exactly what you think it is. If you see this poster, if you see the cover art that will likely be on this episode, you pretty much have a good idea of what you're getting into. It's a garbage movie that has relatively garbage acting, but it has Lou Ferrigno. I don't know if Lou Ferrigno has some kind of medical reason that he hasn't done anything since the 80s for the most part, other than like bit parts. If he just decided to walk away from acting, which I would respect. I have no idea why this is the movie that he decided to come back to. I also didn't check his credentials to see what he did between The Incredible Hulk and I Love You Man and this, because that's the only other movie I can think of him in. But he's fine in this movie. If you can get past the rape scene, it's worth finishing the movie because at least he goes apeshit and kills a bunch of people and all that type of stuff. If you're not willing to watch a lot of crap before you get to the other crap that's slightly better crap, might not be for you. I'd give this like a solid third of a hot dog. Like, it's worth taking a bite. I'm not 100% sure it's worth finishing, but it's at least worth giving a try. So I'd give it about a third-ish of a hot dog, maybe a quarter of a hot dog.
I like that the rating scale is now like a third of a hot dog. It's
Whose hot dog is this, huh? Is it yours?
all right. So for me, this thing is barely a baby step above amateur hour. There's no issue with Lou Ferrigno. He's fine. He's a known commodity, but the movie's going for this gritty portrayal of inner city crime in the UK, and it all comes off as really hack. Maybe if it wasn't some 65-year-old man wandering around the streets and there was actually like an inkling of a supporting cast or a director with talent, this might work out. But it feels like a late era Steven Seagal movie with shitty digital blood effects. But I can say, at least for Lou, that he's actually doing the choreography. It's not cut from the same punch, 15 different angles and 4 different stunt guys doing it for him. So he's not quite fallen down the Steven Seagal rabbit hole quite yet. If not for the extreme pacing issues in the middle of the movie and this like overly gratuitous, like torturous for the audience rape scene, I would have given it half a hot dog. But when it feels like the director says, oh shit, we need another half hour, and then stuffs it full of unnecessary talking from people you don't give a fuck about, I got to leave that hot dog right on the table.
So that's good. We've gotten a whole third or so of a hot dog between two people on one movie. So,
and we're almost to runtime of the movie too.
That's
or the important
true.
parts of it, at least.
So I don't think I get to inflict pain on us again for at least a week. We'll see how it goes. So
I'll give you a week.
Doesn't usually take too long.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually doesn't take too long. As for question of the week, we only got we got some responses this week, which is good. We got more responses to a question of how to cook a hot dog than we did to the actual question of the week. So thank you for that. I was surprised that like 60% of people said that boiling is better than grilling or griddling. I know.
Wow.
That's surprised.
What is wrong with you people?
But I mean, I guess as long as you get the hot dog, that's what counts. But the actual question of the week this week is, what is your favorite trash action movie? So this is a pretty vague topic, and maybe I'm kind of fishing for ideas of what to watch because someone's going on vacation and I need some garbage action movies to watch. It's summer after all, right? So what are your favorite trash action movies? And we're going to start over on Threads, and we're going to go right to Justin over at Pop Culture Reflections Podcast. He is a member of the You Run Podcast Network, and please do check out his show. He says pretty much any 80s Van Damme flick, but also Commando, Cobra, and Roadhouse are at the top of the list for me. So all great choice. I really have no argument with any of those. Especially with Commando, I love that. I'm kind of surprised we haven't talked about that yet. But it's definitely a peg or two above what we got in Instant Death.
At least one or two.
Yeah. So Kate L 45678 says Showdown in Little Tokyo and the first Mortal Kombat movie. So I actually haven't seen Showdown in Little Tokyo. So I probably need to correct that. You look like
What the
you're
fuck is
thinking about
Showdown in Little Tokyo?
it. It is a movie that apparently we need to watch.
Yeah, but who's in that? I'm going to look this up. This won't go onto the
Okay.
show. Showdown. That's not the one with Brandon Lee, is it? And Dolph Lundgren? It is.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Brandon Lee's
Okay.
first movie, I think. That is a really
That makes
fun
me
movie.
less interested, except Dolph Lundgren makes me more interested. Interesting.
That's a fun movie.
So, okay. I don't think I've seen it. So, at bumpers_movie says The Taking of Beverly Hills, and then at what the hell is this? At SRDID Senior Didyums. Yeah. Okay. So at Senior Didyums says Action USA, and then over on Instagram, when you're not talking about boiling hot dogs, we also have a friend over at Video Tasties. He says Rambo 3, Commando, Invasion USA, and Marked for Death, all of which are very fun. Marked for Death or Invasion USA? Which one are you putting in first?
Invasion USA.
It's fair.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, it's actually on my like notes as far as like have watched recently. I just haven't brought it up yet. So, yeah, of course I've seen it. What the hell? Our friend Parker over at Dissect That Film says, I love 80s and early 90s Seagal movies. Hard to Kill, Out for Justice, and Under Siege, just to name a few. Parker, we might subject you to some 2020s Seagal movies. Perhaps one with Mike Tyson in it.
You like
that
80s and
haven't
90s Seagal? How about we watch a 2020 Seagal? Mm-hmm. You like that? How about this?
We really are. We're really due for another kill switch. It's been a minute. Still one of the most entertainingly shit movies that have been talked about on this podcast.
Yes.
And last and certainly not least is Kentucky Fried Critics, and they say got to give it to the Crank movies. You can't just look away. I've actually only watched one of those. I'm not a huge Jason Statham fan. I feel like this is a dumb statement because I am a Schwarzenegger fan, but I feel like he's just always the same thing over and over again. But maybe I need to revisit it a little bit. Do you have any thoughts on the Crank movies?
I don't know if I've seen any of them all the way through, but I've heard that they're very good, and I think it's something I would like. Again, I'm not like a big
They're
Statham.
modern action movies.
Yeah, I'm not a big Statham guy, so I don't have a lot of like experience with his movies.
I think my thing with him is I really like him in the aforementioned Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch.
Yeah.
Like I really liked him in those two movies. And then like overnight he became like American action movie guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why, but that just never quite like sat for me. I always wanted him to be like, I guess, I don't know, a Snatch of action movie.
It's
or
like an action
those
comedy
two,
kind of caper movie, I guess. I don't really know.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I just liked his characters more in those, and seeing him like all of a sudden be all yoked up and beating the shit up. I'm like, I don't know if this fits.
Do you feel like
to
he kind of
me,
dumbed it?
but-
They dumbed it down for him, or
Yeah, kind of. And I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's just what he wants to do. I mean, I watched him fight a giant shark using a surfboard not that long ago, or something like that, in the Meg.
as
and
you do.
That was pretty stupid. But how about you, Sean? You got any trash action movies you would
I
recommend?
mean, so many. Like anything Chuck Norris, anything early JCVD, Schwarzenegger, Stallone, 80s stuff, Cannon Group movies. There are so many just shit movies. If you go on Tubi, any Italian action movie, any movie you go on where the cover or the poster is like painted and it's a guy with a rippling bicep holding a gun or breaking a brick, or like any of those types of movies, those are go-tos. If I go on Tubi and I see something of a guy with a rippling bicep holding a big rifle with one hand, shooting it and smashing a brick with his elbow, I'm instantly in. Like you don't even have to. The only reason I didn't watch one of those and watch The Prey instead is because The Prey was an hour and 17 minutes or whatever. And I was like, I don't have a whole lot of time. I want to watch something stupid that I've had on my list for a long time to watch. This is what I'll turn on. There are so many trashy, junky, garbage movies, action movies especially, that I am so like looking forward to watching.
So I think if you like trashy action movies of this ilk, I would, I mean, I can say this. Go back and listen to every single episode where we've talked about what we watched ahead of time, because they come up pretty frequently. Nightmare at Noon would be high on my list.
For sure.
We've both talked about that in the last few weeks, and that is a trash action movie, but it is a hell of a lot of fun.
That's the screenshot you used, isn't it, for this post?
Yes.
I knew that.
Yes, it is from Nightmare at Noon. Yes. Shit, what was that other fucking movie that was like, I just watched it a couple weeks ago. You said you had seen it. It was like shot in some rock quarry, and it's basically like some dude with like playing with all his toys and blowing shit up the whole time. I can't remember what it's called now. But yeah, anything that looks like a garbage action movie, especially if it predates the year 2000, I'm generally in for. Seagal stuff, as much as I hate the man, I will watch his shit movies because they do make me laugh, and they are often trash. I've said it before, I don't know if this falls in the same category, but any of the old like 60s through 80s kung fu movies are a lot of trash movies as well, and I enjoy the shit out of those too. So those are kind of the things where I tend to dabble in more often than not. And of course, you can get into your stuff like Ninja 3 is a hell of a lot of fun, and we talked about that. And quite a few of these actually are movies that we've already covered. So any of those that we brought up, maybe Sean will put them in the notes. Maybe he won't.
I mean, we've got 175 episodes. So if anything interests you and you go and look at our back catalog, there's a ton of
Steel
garbage.
comes to mind.
Yeah, that falls into the Italian action genre.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And of course, we could always talk about movies where wrestlers in which Austin often falls into that category too. We just did a whole month of that. So there's a whole bunch of them. But I think that's all we got for this week. Do you got anything else you want to add on before we start wrapping up here?
We need to watch Rapid Fire with Powers Booth and Brandon Lee. I remember that being really fun.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to add.
So it's not going to be next week because we have something we got to get done first, but it will be after that. So in 2 weeks, 3 weeks from this episode, because we already have one in the near future, we will do Rapid Fire. And I'm making a note because Sean said so.
It's payback for instant death. I didn't die instantly. I want my money back.
A lot of people don't die instantly in that fucking movie. There's like 5 people that die instantly out of like the 20 or 25 that get dead.
I only watched that movie because I thought I would die instantly. It's called Instant Death. And I didn't die. I want my money back.
I would refund you, but anyway. So until next week, we do thank you for coming and hanging out with us this week. In the meantime, if you would like more of the Dewey Pod Monster podcast, you can find us on all the different podcast platforms out there. We're also on YouTube. If you search Dewey Pod Monster, there's a whole channel of all our stuff on there. You can find us on social medias. We're at Dewey Pod Monster on the majority of them, with the exception of Blue Sky, which is probably the preferred place, but we are at crap.town on there. You can send us messages. Tell us other trash movies that you would like us to watch. Whatever you want to do, you can tell us that we should stop watching trash movies and watch good movies. We probably won't do that, but you can tell us to. And I'm probably forgetting stuff. Sean, bring us home. Let's get this wrapped up.
Well, I was going to say, if you want your answer to the question of the week read on this here show, you got to answer that question of the week on those there special social media places that John cares about. If you want to find or listen or watch any of the stuff that we talked about on the show, you can find them in the show notes. They are almost always free, except for the ones that say Amazon next to them. Those are affiliate links. We get a small cut of anything that you purchase when you click those links and you purchase the thing we talk about. You can also follow me on Blue Sky at internalbleeding.crap.town. I post little crappy videos of little crappy things that I watch during the little crappy week in between this little crappy show. And you can find those and watch those, and you can laugh, or you can not watch them at all, and you can follow me anyways. And other than that, if you want to help out the show, leave us a review, tell your friends, say, I know a bunch of guys, or a couple guys at least, that talk about some shitty movies. You might like them. You like shitty movies. You like shitty stuff too. Just look at your family. Just kidding. You can do that, and that's the best way to promote the show. You can tell your friends or rank and review this podcast on the podcast platform of your choice.
So that's it. Unfortunately, Instant Death has lost, but we won, and we'll be back next week with some more fun. In the meantime, slow up, cheers, blah, 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 all that good shit.
Bird season's over, Butthorn.
He was an Islamic American. He was, I need to drink more or less, I'm not quite sure. He was an Islamic American. God damn it.